صوت امجاد سوريا. الله محيي الجيش، الله محيي الجيش، الله محيي الجيش.
And our mission is to inform you, the American people and the world, about America's foreign policy. As Secretary Kerry said, foreign policy is no longer foreign. In this interconnected world, what happens abroad matters to us here at home. So view us at the State Department as your window into American diplomacy, into U.S. foreign policy. And you can do that in a variety of ways. If you want to become informed and engaged, you can follow us on Twitter. You can participate in one of our Facebook chats, or you could watch our daily press briefing Monday through Friday, which we live stream. Or if you happen to be in Washington, you can come to one of our foreign policy classrooms. We'd love to see you. So come to www.state.gov. We look forward to having a conversation with you.
I'll make our government open and transparent so that anyone can ensure that our business is the people's business. Justice Louis Brandeis once said, "Sunlight is the greatest disinfectant." It's no coincidence that one of the most secretive administrations in our history has favored special interests and pursued policies that could not stand up to the sunlight. As president, I'm going to change that. I'll let you participate in government forums, ask questions in real time, offer suggestions that will be reviewed before decisions are made, and let you comment on legislation before it is signed.
I was just wondering how you would grade yourself on your transparent government.
Well, you know, I've got to be careful about grading myself. But I will tell you that a recent independent watchdog group took a look and said this has been the most transparent government, most transparent administration that we have seen in a very, very long time, perhaps in the modern era.
Recap from the most transparent administration in history. You won't tell us what you were asking for President Morsi to do or what you would like to see. The conversations that you have with countries involving Mr. Snowden are private and you can't talk about them. Your conversations with European allies and others about the NSA spying allegations are also private. You know, I don't know, how would you respond to someone who might say that it appears that the only privacy that this administration is interested in protecting is its own?
Look, Matt, I don't know that I have a substantive response for you here, other than to say that some diplomatic conversations need to remain private.
Maybe a newspaper, is claiming that Mr. Kerry threatened Abbas in the last trip, in his last visit, to cut off aid if they don't acquiesce, and in fact that Abbas has come around to accept whatever conditions that are placed on him.
Well, I haven't seen that report. As you know, to the frustration of all of you, I'm not going to get into any private conversations, but certainly that's not something I could confirm or reiterate from here.
But first, I just want to underscore something. This secrecy, this incessant secrecy that the most transparent administration in history has surrounding this, that prevents you from denying a report that you were just asked about, makes the situation on the ground worse. Do you not see that? If there's a Palestinian report, a report in the region that says the U.S. is threatening the Palestinians with something, and it's not true, you should be able to come out and say that it's not true, because otherwise the Palestinians get upset. Makes your job harder, it makes the Secretary's job harder, it makes everyone's job harder. The last thing you should be worried about is our frustration. But I hope that you recognize that. Do you?
Your point is noted.
All right, let's go.
Wait a minute.
I mean, but you can't deny that you're threatening the Palestinians?
Well, Elise, we're just not going to get in as a policy into whack-a-mole about every single report that's out there.
That's a pretty outrageous.
That's been our policy.
It's not a whack-a-mole. I mean, it's not that you refer. There are plenty of questions from this podium where you're asked about a report and you say that's totally inaccurate.
That's true, and obviously,
in fact, one of mine that actually was totally accurate, but plenty of times you shoot down reports. So if this one isn't true, why can't you say whether it's true?
Because, Elise, we've made a decision, the Secretary's made the decision that these discussions, the details around them are going to be private, and that's the best way to move them forward.
Yeah, that keeping these steps secret is a way to encourage them, the two sides, to accept them and agree to them and move on them. Because clearly this policy of secrecy has been an abject failure so far.
Well, I'm not going to get into all of our diplomatic communications. Again, I'm not going to get into our back and forth. While we're not going to comment publicly on the specifics of alleged intelligence activity, I mean, again, we'll have that conversation privately with them. Again, I'm not going to get into the content of that diplomatic exchange other than to say that we're going to have it very directly and privately with the countries concerned. I'm just not going to get into any further details of our intelligence methods from here. I don't think we're going to read out their side of a diplomatic conversation.
What is the evidence to back up the statement of the Secretary that there has been real progress? Is there any evidence, anything that you can point to that is not a secret?
Again, the Secretary was very clear from the beginning of this process. We're not going to be getting into the day-to-day and the back and forth and what the gaps are.
I just want to know, for the public, when the Secretary of State comes out and says there has been real progress, he doesn't do so in a vacuum. He does so in an atmosphere where there is not a single tangible, discernible sign of progress to the rest of the world.
Matt, the Secretary feels very strongly.
I just want to know: is there a single tangible item that you can point to that isn't secret to back up the claim that there's been real progress?
Matt, the Secretary believes very strongly in the integrity of the process. He feels strongly that keeping these negotiations private.
But would you agree that there isn't anything that you can point to
again,
as a sign of progress?
That's your characterization. My characterization of it
No, you're pointing me to his comments. His comments need to be backed up with some kind of fact. But I want to know if there's any publicly available, tangible sign that would prove or that would back up the claim that real progress has been made. And you're telling me no.
As frustrating as it is to you,
there isn't anything you can point to that would show me or anyone else. I just want to know, yes or no, is there a single tangible piece of publicly available information that would back up the claim that real progress has been made? Yes or no?
Matt, you do make a valid point. The Secretary thinks there's real value in keeping that private, and it is on his good word that progress is being made.
Okay, so there isn't anything you can point to back up that statement.
I think we can't.
No, all right. But I just wanted, because listen, we went through this whole thing during the Bush administration with Annapolis being told every day that progress is being made, we can't tell you about it. And now we're being told, and that did not result in an agreement. And now we're being told the same thing.
The Secretary is aware of the history.
Good.
And he's aware of the precedent.
Good, because your colleague once said that she didn't want to look through the rearview mirror, but I'm glad that.
I'm just saying the Secretary is aware of the history. He's not naive, and he's very focused on working in good faith to make progress to getting these two sides back to the table.
I am not going to get into specific private conversations. This is something where
there could be quite a lot happening. You're just not prepared to talk about it. Do you still hold the view that Patrick espoused here yesterday, that you share values, including privacy and freedom of speech and that type of thing with countries in Europe?
We do.
You do. So their complaints, you think, are without foundation?
Matt, we're having private conversations with the appropriate partners, and I'm not going to get into the specifics of those. I'm not going to get into specific countries, though. It's just not something I can provide an update on.
That suggests that there has been, but you're just not going to talk about it.
I just don't have any update on it for you, one way or the other.
Because again,
I'm just not going to have an update on it from here. I don't have any update for you on that. We just don't have any further comment. He doesn't plan, or we don't plan, to read out specifics behind the scenes of agreements or decisions that are made on that front. I just don't have more to clarify for you. I'm not going to get into other specifics. I just don't have any more to outline for you from the specifics of the parties.
The new approach is keeping everything quiet. That's been an approach that's been used every time going back to 1999, keeping everything secret. That's not a new approach. The attempt to keep it quiet is not a new approach.
I don't have anything more for you on it.
So that would be a yes. You can't say whether you
yes.
support it. Okay.
Will the Secretary have comment on the expiration of exemptions for companies in China, Turkey, South Korea, and so forth that continue to use Iranian oil? After the bill, can we expect a statement?
I'll have to check on that for you after the briefing. And see
Do you have any comment on it?
Hey, what's up? I'm gonna go.
We'll come right back to you,
No
Saeed.
problem, go.
Jen, is it out of the question that the State Department will issue a statement on the Manning verdict? I know Matt asked about this at the beginning.
Mhm.
Is it, I mean, considering the focus on it in 2010, is that out of the question that later today we can get a statement?
I'm not aware of plans to, but I'm happy to circle back with the team here and see if we're going to have more to offer.
Do you know, at the time we were told that U.S. lives were in risk, the Pentagon was saying U.S. lives were at risk, the State Department was saying U.S. lives are at risk. Do you know if since 2010 anybody has been killed as a result of the WikiLeaks document dump?
I just don't have any more on this topic for you.
Could you
Well,
comment on that?
I haven't seen that report. As you know, to the frustration of all of you, I'm not going to get into any private conversations, but certainly that's not something I could confirm or reiterate from here. I don't have anything more on the legal piece.
Do you have anything on this?
I don't. I have nothing for you on that.
Have you read the report?
I've seen the reports. I don't have anything for you on it. Let's
Yes.
do.
You cannot
Let's
confirm
do
it
just a
or
few more.
deny it?
I have nothing for you. Well, again,
Is that
Matt,
correct or
I
not?
appreciate the opportunity to make a guess on what he's thinking, but we've been very clear on what we think needs to happen here.
Well,
So
actually, you haven't been very clear on what you think needs to happen. You spent the entire 20 minutes so far refusing to be specific and refusing to be clear about what you think needs to happen. So,
okay.
Let me just clarify a few things with you, if I may. The first is the actual policy of the administration as expressed by Josh Earnest today. I'm a little confused by his comments. I'm sure the trouble resides with me. Is it the policy of the Obama administration right now that it is not making any determination whether a coup has taken place, or it is not making the determination that a coup took place?
I won't be tricked by your self-deprecation. I will. Our policy has been, it continues to be today, that we are not making a determination about whether a coup
Any
took place.
determination about whether it
Correct.
happened, okay.
Correct.
Why isn't it incumbent on the United States to make a determination one way or the other?
Well, we looked at our legal requirements and determined that we were not required to make a determination, which I realize is a mouthful.
do you understand that there's a serious problem here? Because if you talk about, all you're prepared to say is that you don't accept the legitimacy of continued settlement activity, you are only calling illegitimate settlements that have not been announced, settlements that are, say, a twinkle in the housing minister or whoever's eye. Once they are actually announced or built, you stop calling them illegitimate, and you start saying that, oh, that's something to be decided between the parties.
Well, this has been our
Okay.
position for a number of years.
Well, right, but
So-
and I'm surprised that no one, especially me, has picked up on this before, because you have essentially you don't oppose settlements at all, because once they're built or once they're announced, once plans to build them are announced, you're not opposed to them anymore because it's something for the parties to decide whether they're legitimate or not.
Well, certainly, it will be a big part of the discussion. Will be
Do you understand
that
the
process
problem?
moving forward.
Do you understand
I understand what you're conveying, Matt. I'm happy to talk back with our team and see if there's any more clarification.
Okay, so
we can
tell me,
provide.
am I wrong in thinking that the United States has no position at all, except that it is to be decided by the parties on the legitimacy or illegitimacy of settlements that exist in the West Bank today?
I believe you are wrong, Matt. We'll get you some
You
more
believe I'm wrong?
clarification.
Okay.
We'll get you some more clarification. Mhm.
That's your long-standing position going back all the way to 1967 and through George Herbert Walker Bush when he was representative of the United Nations and on to Andrew Young and on and on and on, that the settlement that Jerusalem, East Jerusalem, the West Bank, all territory occupied is contrary to the Fourth Geneva Convention, and any alteration stands contrary to that you will not support. That is your position, not to reconcile yourself to the facts on the ground as has been suggested.
Duly noted. Beyond that, I'm not going to peel the curtain back on any specific discussions. I just don't want to get into the sausage making behind the scenes.
Well, it's fair enough that you don't want to get into the sausage making, but this administration represents the American people.
I agree with
And the
you.
American people and the rest of the world would like to know exactly why it is that you do what you do and you say what you say when you say it.
I certainly
And-
understand that. And if there's more I can share with you, I'm happy to do that.